Welcome back to We're Not the Same. I'm Brian,
I'm Katie.
and we are excited for a part 2 on our marriage and relationship Q&A. So without further ado, let's dive in.
So how did you know you were ready for kids?
I didn't.
I told him.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, you're ready. Let's
You're
go.
ready. Let's do this.
I mean, no,
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'm just such a lot, it's what we talked about when we were talking about a third kid, or probably even a second too, of just like, there's no logical reasoning for having, there's no thing like, yeah, it's like, that's easier if we have another one.
That's easier. That makes us more financially stable.
Same.
That makes us sleep better. That makes us more sane. That makes our marriage better. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. But it's just such a blessing. But yeah, so I think I always knew I definitely knew I wanted to have kids for sure. But I think that's why I always said back when she always wanted 4 kids. You always wanted 4 kids, which we're marching closer to that now. I was always like, let's just take it one at a time.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, I don't know what to expect. I mean, we don't know anything about kids. So let's take it one at a time and we'll see how it goes. So I think that's where I was at. And I think, I mean, just like everything, I'm super risk averse. So that's one of the reasons I love you, is you being decisive and like pushing some things on what we should be doing, like buying a house and different, things I wanted to do, but you helped me get there on a good time to start.
So with like the second, I mean, obviously I know okay, so that's the first, but with the second, was it the same thing of like, you were just going based off what I kind of wanted, or were you like feeling, because I'm calculating out, okay, get pregnant here and have the baby here. She'll be this old, then be this old, and be like this, and they'll be in these grades at the same time. Like, that's what a woman thinks about.
Yeah.
So like, did you think about any of that? Or?
I did. I thought about some of that, like related to grades in school. There was definitely some things like that I thought about. I think that ultimately I had similar feelings to you of like we
obviously like talked about it a lot.
Well, yeah, I missed the snuggles and the that whole part of it. Yeah. But I think I still felt strongly about the logical stuff. Like, man, this was hard.
Yeah.
Like, now we finally have some time back, because it's like, and this is great. It's like more time together as a married couple and less time, Yeah. So I think it's the same thing. I was just talking about this.
We both knew that, like, we wanted more than one, though, for sure.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I mean, after having one, I definitely knew that we were gonna have another one, because I think we've also talked about, like, I think being only somewhat, I mean, you were 100% an only child. I have a younger sister, but we're 12 years apart, so we were kind of only children.
Two only children.
Yeah. We knew that we wanted to have kids that had the experience of having a brother or sister.
Yeah.
Together. So yeah, I mean, all those things combined, but ultimately it's always fighting it back against the illogical. It's not logical to have kids, but it's a true blessing for sure. And I think that's where now on the third one, that was really a breakthrough of just like, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but this is awesome. Like, these kids are great. It's hard, but if God is wants to bless us with a child, then we should accept that blessing. And
it's the only eternal thing in this life.
Yeah. And we've talked so much more about like having a generational mindset and how we can be setting up that generation, not just with the number of kids, but having our life centered around Christ and homeschooling and those things that, I mean, we're first gen for a lot of things. So It's exciting.
Yeah. I was born ready. I mean, pretty much, like, as a girl, you grow up, not every girl, obviously, but a lot of girls grow up playing dolls and being a mom. And I think I was on like the extreme end of like, I played with dolls for a really long time. And like, I loved, thinking about motherhood and, we were joking. I was talking about how like my mom and I used to watch the show Super Nanny, and then I would like practice the tactics on my younger cousins, like the timeout corner, or like just different things. So I think I always wanted kids. I mean, I remember in college, I was like, let's just get married, get a house, like have a baby. We can do it. We can handle it. I don't know how we were affording any of that in my mind. In my head, it's a little illogical, but that's what you were there for, to be like, no, we're going to be in college right now. So just calm down. But then, yeah, I mean, I remember after we got married, there was like at least one time where I like really thought that I might be pregnant. And I was a little like scared, like, oh, we're not ready, or like this isn't the timeline. But then every woman I feel like can relate to this. Like then when the test is negative, you're like sad. I remember like one time, this was after we already had kids, and kind of are like, am I pregnant right now? And then I told you, I was like, I already loved it. It's like I didn't want to be pregnant, but I already loved it. So
it's good.
There was never a moment where I was like, okay, I think we're ready. It was just like kind of waiting until just the life timing was right. And in our peer group, we were very young to get married, very young to become parents, but I didn't care. I think that's what I wanted. That's probably what everybody around us like anticipated that it would be.
True.
Just knowing us and knowing me. So here we are. So I had a couple that were kind of around kids, so
let's keep them going.
We'll just keep
Spitfire.
them going. Yeah. How many kids did you think you wanted, and how many do you want now?
I was always one at a time.
That is true. I can vouch for that.
Now I'm like, it's so funny. I'm like, I feel like we're definitely gonna have 4, at least. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like, I mean, I don't know. There's like no hesitation of like, I think we should probably have a 4th, which is weird because
now I'm more like one at a time.
I've like literally never had that feeling before. Beyond that, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting conversations and a lot of praying. I was just having a conversation.
Like how old we get too.
I was just having a conversation with another dad and friends of ours who they just had their 5th, and hearing the conversations that they had, it's very similar conversations that we had for our 3rd. And I think it's the same thing. I think especially as Christians, we go back to how much are we trying to control, and what does God have in store for us? And do we believe and trust in him that he'll give us what we can handle and provide for us? And is this what he wants? I mean, it's his creation. I mean, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That we get to be honored and have the opportunity to be part of that. So
I think when we first started talking about number 3, that was one of your like kind of concerns at the time, because you're like, well, if we use this as the justification for 3, then what happens after that? And then
there's no end.
Like, well, that's where it's just one at a time, because
it's what God wants to bless us with.
Yeah.
So we can look back on this episode when we have 10 kids and see.
Well, we're not like this maybe is its own episode, but we're not just totally open and trusting God, and just whatever happens. Like I have been doing the fertility awareness method for 8 years now. So I'm not going to suddenly just be like, oh, I have no idea what's happening. Like, I know my body. So that's where like with our 3rd, we felt the call of we should have another child. And so it's like, we'll see, constantly.
We'll try during when that
thinking with prayer and having a conversation with God of like, should we or shouldn't we?
Yeah. And
not just like, oh, like whatever the feeling strikes. Like, I don't understand people who do it that way, because I'm like, that just shows that you as a woman, you don't like know your body at all, because how could you not know? Like I would know. I would be like, there's a high likelihood, considering how, we've been able to get pregnant with these 3. there's a high chance of it happening if you do it at the right time.
Yeah. Well, that's why we were talking to the guys and I were talking about the same exact topic. And yeah, it comes down to like, because I was like, Katie knows her body, like she knows like when she's ovulating. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's not
right
like
now it's
whoa,
happening.
yeah. It's like we're actively making a decision to try and not just like, whoa, willy-nilly, like we'll see what happens. Like it's intentional. So I think that's where for us it has to be grounded in faith and prayer and like getting a blessing from God to say,
well,
like,
because what I think we shared before in the episode about number 3 was like we were scared of having more.
Yes.
And that was where it was bad.
Yep, for sure. But I mean, I still have all the concerns. I think more so.
Oh, I have concerns.
Oh, I have concerns too. Obviously, all of the concerns we talked about, but also the, spending time with the kids and giving them a relationship to like that gets harder as you have more kids. And this dad who has 5 acknowledges that as well. And it's like, yeah, it's tough. More things we have to think about and pray about and all that. So
yeah, I feel like like when I was way young, I wanted like 6 kids or something crazy.
Speaking that out, speaking that over us. Huh?
But for like the majority of my memory is like I wanted 4 kids. I don't know where. I think I felt like 2 wasn't enough, and I didn't want an odd number, so that's how I got to 4. But now obviously we thought like 2 was plenty to handle, and then now we're having another and just going through pregnancy, and like I've had a really good pregnancy overall, but it's still a pregnancy, and just the thought of like going through that then with 3 kids, every time it's more and more. So it's just a lot to think about, and I don't know what it's going to be like to have 3. I feel like I'm still learning how to have 2, as you mentioned, like as an only child. Mm-hmm. There are things that I personally didn't experience growing up because I didn't have a sibling. So
we're celebrating tonight.
I don't know.
On that note, tonight is the first night that our 2 beautiful girls are sharing a room together.
That's right. Yep.
Night number 1.
And also George's first night in a big girl bed.
That's right. We just kind of ripped that Band-Aid off. Kind of threw it here. Hey, by the way, you're going to be in the girl bed. In a room with your sister.
She's ready for it. I mean, we've been talking it up for a while now, so I think we'll see how it goes. But
it is sad. It
made me cry a little bit when I went back into her room and she wasn't in the crib. I
know. I didn't even like really acknowledge to myself this morning and like last night putting her down in the crib. That like that's her last night in the crib. Okay, we better move on. Seriously though.
So basically, now we swapped where I'm like, let's see how it is with 3 and then we'll see where we go from there.
Okay.
Were you nervous about how having kids would change me/our relationship?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's in the list of all the yes, for sure. I mean, that was definitely in the list of the things that I was worried about in a sense of like the time we get to spend together. I don't think I ever thought of it of like, oh man, is our marriage going to be, are we going to have more marital problems because of the kids? I think it was more so I was just bummed and worried about the less time we'd have together.
Interesting.
What's your answer?
No, I mean, I didn't ever have thoughts about that. Like, I didn't ever think about like how you would change as a dad or, like how being a dad would change you or anything. I think I always just like, knew how you would be as a dad. What I didn't know is how like being a mom would change me. I didn't know to be like concerned about struggles with different just mental health, emotional things. Like I think that's been the hardest part of motherhood, honestly, is dealing with myself.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, I think also just being home with them too, like around them all the time and homeschooling.
Yeah, I also didn't know I was gonna be homeschooling.
Yep.
So
it's a lot.
Yep.
So I think that leads well into one of my next question, is just around. I think there's a lot of women out there, who have successful careers and all of that, and I don't think maybe you did. Maybe you can answer that as part of this question. Knew that you were going to be like a stay-at-home mom and a homeschooler and all of that, and like. So what, 2 parts, like what how does it feel to have made that decision? Like, how are you feeling about it, and what made you make those decisions? And then also, how does it feel to be, as someone who is very successful and smart and can be providing for yourself, how does it feel to be kind of under my wing and my financial protection?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just wanted you to dive into that, because I think there's a lot of women out there who are either in your shoes already or are struggling to figure out what they want to do, or
Yeah.
what it's like.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot there.
Glad we did 2 parts of this.
So the first part of being a stay-at-home mom, I don't think I knew that I would be a stay-at-home mom, but I think I hoped that I would be a stay-at-home mom. Even, knowing that I was getting my engineering degree and just trying so hard, so much stress, so much effort to get certain jobs and internships and all the struggle with that. It's I should have just thought a little more about what my ultimate goals were. But I was so hyper focused at the time that whatever. But I think I guess it was when I was pregnant or during my maternity leave when we had those conversations. But I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. There was no well, should I or shouldn't I? I knew that I wanted to stay home, and it was more just financially, is it the right move? Thinking of at the time the present, but also the future, because in a field like engineering, you can't really just go out for a few years, I feel or I could probably get back in, but I would be just at such a lower level than, you've been progressing all this time in your career. So it just would be interesting to try and go back, which I have no desire to do, but should, the need ever arise. And then with the homeschooling, I never really thought that I don't think I've really thought about it too much, but since we weren't homeschooled, I certainly wasn't actively thinking about that we would ever homeschool. But obviously I think it's the right choice for our family, and dream state would be that I would homeschool all kids through high school, and I would love to see that happen. I don't know if that will happen. Only God knows what life has in store for us in the future. So there's a lot of things that could change that. I always say to people, it's year by year basis, based on me, based on each individual kid, based on life circumstances. There's a lot that can go into that decision, but I like homeschooling. I would like to continue to homeschool for as long as possible. And then with the financial part of it, I think it's hard at times. I mean, most days, 99 days out of 100, I'm not actively thinking about that. But the times where we do sit down and think about our finances, or you see some horror story or something, you think about those worst case scenarios of life. Yeah, I don't have my own financial, support. It's all through you. And so just there is a bit of faith involved, and trusting God that I will be provided for, hopefully through you for forever. But if not, that, he'll make a way one way or another. Especially, I think I have thought about it more as we're bringing another child into the world. It's another mouth to feed, another butt to diaper, all these expenses, it's scary a little bit. But I never think, we're very blessed in the sense of I never think, oh, well, if I was working, then we could have this, we could have XYZ. There's nothing I desire that makes me think, oh, I wish I had an income so that we could afford this. Very happy. And that's not to say that we don't make sacrifices. It's just that I don't see them as a sacrifice, or I see it as a worthy sacrifice for what I'm trading. The things that I've traded
Yeah.
you know, my salary in for are like far beyond worth. Like, it's not even a question. So,
I love you.
oh, I love you
That's awesome.
too. Do you ever think about that? Like, you work with couples that are in the shoes we could have been in,
Yeah.
and you see their
No,
vacations and their houses and their cars and all the
I
things that we don't have.
I wouldn't trade it for anything. That you're doing the work that God's work, and that's the most important thing is raising your kids. So, no, I'm so blessed that you. And I mean, we talked about that early on in our relationship. I think it's a good thing to talk about. That was always your desire.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know we didn't know how it was going to go or the circumstances that would lead us there, but having that on your heart, I think is an important thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I don't at all. I mean, I think it's a real, you know, just incredible blessing that you value the things that you value. And you know, because when you think about, you know, you think about your opportunity cost of earning potential as an engineer, right? Like you're talking, you know, over the span of your life, your working career, you're talking like millions of dollars, especially invested money based on, you know, it's a lot of money you're trading for staying home with the kids and raising children. So I just appreciate you a lot.
Oh, thanks.
I'm honored to be able to provide for you.
Yeah.
Blessed with the provision that God provides to us. And I'm thankful that we're just on the same page about our financials. And yeah, we have to sacrifice. We, you know, budget and do all that things too. But
we also both grew up fairly conservative.
We did.
Like our parents.
They built a foundation for us.
Yeah, they definitely, you know, we were both just raised as savers, not spenders. Yep. So
yeah, for sure.
That helps.
But I distinctly remember the stress and the going through, just for those of you who are out there who are thinking about making this change of having one spouse stay home, like I mean, as an engineer, I built models and all these trying to predict the future. And I did a presentation for our parents, like both of our parents. Like I remember doing that, like showing it up on the screen. And like, I don't know, your parent, you know, your dad, like this is like a big moment. Like I'm going.
Well, because I think it's like we obviously weren't asking their permission, but we also like we didn't want to do something that they, you know, thought was crazy, or like if they thought that this was going to send us into financial ruin, then, you know, maybe it wasn't the best idea. Like we still valued their thoughts on it a lot.
Yes.
And, you know, I think they were like, you're going to be fine. Like you need to calm down. Worst case, you go back in a year. Like, I mean, at that point it would have been easy to reverse.
That's the thing. I don't think
now
we have that perspective.
Now it's not so easy to reverse.
No, but it's fun to go back. It was. I remember sitting like I don't know why I don't have good memory about stuff, but I remember sitting on the bed and like talking about it so many hours and like going through stuff and like it was agonizing. I mean, it's a huge decision to make. So I think now we would have done a lot more prayer and leaning on God than we did. I'm sure we prayed about it back then too, because it's not like we never prayed, but yeah, it was a big decision. And I do have the original spreadsheets and stuff, models that I go back to every year when I'm doing our finances and like, this is where I thought we would be, and like, this is where we're at. And we're exponentially higher every year than like.
Well, I think too, like that year, I'm like, maybe not exponential.
Not yet.
But, so that wasn't that long after, like we had both gotten new to us cars. We had bought this house. We had poured a ton of money into this house. You know, never obviously like going beyond our means. Like we don't do that. But I think that was so fresh. Like now, obviously looking back, everything's worked out. So it's easier to say like, yeah, like just it's no big deal or whatever. But yeah, like at the time, it's like, well, are we going to be able to pay for these things? And then plus we didn't really know the expenses of a child, you know.
I remember doing all that too.
Yeah, like how, you know, how much is she gonna cost us, and you know, how much will it cost to then add another one and paying for the birth of another one and just all those things. I think that is something that we've learned as we've gotten older, of like it's gonna a little more trust, you know, that it's gonna work itself out, you know.
Yeah.
For the little things, like we're talking diapers and formula, like stuff like that, like you're gonna make a way. You're gonna make it work.
I think it is interesting though. I think in particular in our story of like that we had saved and had a good, amount of money when we bought our house to do renovations and all that. Like the amount of money we spent, like I don't think I'd be comfortable spending that right now. Like I definitely wouldn't. Like
we spent so much money.
We spent so much money. So I think it was good to do that when we were young.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we did that.
I'm glad we did that because even now, like I don't think we would do that now. So I don't think everybody has that opportunity to do that, but I think that plays into like take risks when you're younger. And actually, as we're talking, I'm realizing like I'm glad we had the opportunity to do those risks because I don't consider myself a risk taker and getting crazy investments and all this good stuff.
Well,
but
and it wasn't we're using the word risk.
Yeah, I mean the opportunity
cost. It wasn't really a risk.
Yeah,
we weren't like spending money we didn't have in order to flip a house or something. Like we were.
Yeah, but it was
using the money that we had saved for years, because in college we both worked internships, and we were blessed that our parents paid for our college and stuff, so we were able to just save
and scholarships and stuff,
most of that money.
Yep. So,
but the other part of your question was just like making that decision or something, and I'm obviously a huge proponent of staying home. And it's interesting now, though, like in a lot of like more, I guess, conservative podcasts and stuff that I listen to, people are talking more about the actual like scientific things around how, children under the age of 3, there is literally science to back it up. Like children should be with their parents, especially the mother. Like the mother just it's not the same. Like a child, there are differences between mom and dad. So a stay-at-home dad is not the same as a stay-at-home mom. Like not to say it's bad if someone has a stay-at-home dad, but it's not the same as a stay-at-home mom. And so I think it is important, and it's not a knock. Like it's such a sensitive topic, obviously, right? Yeah. But then that's like, well, why is it sensitive? Because as women, you have the biological call to like, it's not culturally that you feel pressure to stay home with your children. It's biologically. You literally, your body wants you to be with your child. So it's sad that we live in a country where mothers are not put up on a pedestal the way they are in other places, even just small third world country, like tribal communities treat mothers and children better than we do in America. So it's pretty messed up. But the point is that if you have it like at all in your heart of should I stay home? Like, yes. if you have a child who's 2-3 years old, like at that point you've been able to see how fast it goes. And those years are not coming back. Like those times where they're an infant, those milestones, those stages, you're not getting those back. So, like I'm saying as an engineer, like now it's been 5 years since I've been at work. So it's a little bit, would it be hard to go back? Like, I don't think I could go back to my old job necessarily.
Yeah.
But could I get a job? I mean, I have the degree. I still have the skills at this point. I have, honestly, a lot of skills attained just as a mom. So I don't know how that would work in the workplace, but I could do something. Like, yes. I could work at Starbucks. Like, I mean,
I don't know about that.
There's always a job.
Other people.
Well,
that'd be fun. Let's throw you into a blue-haired liberal Starbucks.
Yes, the girl with the rainbow hair that makes my coffee she makes it so well.
Pray to Jesus.
But no, I mean, like, there's always going to be a job. You're replaceable everywhere except in the lives of your children. That's the one place where you're not replaceable. So,
amen.
Yeah, I always encourage people to lean into that. And like, I think it's sad to see some people who have like been in the career realm and get their life set up to a certain way based on a certain income, double income.
Yep.
and then they have kids, and then they realize how much they wish they could stay home, but their life is set up in a way where they can't really afford that without like making major changes and sacrifices. I still think it's worth it to do that, but I see that it's harder, you know, if you've now got this crazy house payment, car payment, you're used to having these, you know, whatever, subscriptions, delivery services, you like to get your mani-pedi every week, like all those things. I can see that it's hard to give them up, but I think that it's a worthy reason to give it up.
Agreed.
So, is it hard to be a stay-at-home mom? Hell yeah. It's harder than any job.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe not any. Okay, for all the, you know, people who like to argue out there. The vast majority of jobs that a woman would have, staying home with your kids, your toddlers who are out to get you, is way harder. That's why I need this shirt, Holy Ghost. That's on the back it says, goes with me wherever I go. So just call on the Holy Spirit multiple times throughout the day.
Love it. Did you have anything else?
I had one more question.
Okay. I got one more too.
Okay.
You can go first.
Mine was like, how do you keep the spark alive?
Ooh. I think just making intentional time for each other.
Yeah.
I think having we're beyond blessed to live close to family and to have your mom be able to take care of the kiddos and things like that, so we can get time together. So I think keeping the spark alive is being intentional about having time together, not being lost in the day-to-day with the kids and all that.
Yeah. And I remember like during the 2020, you know, we weren't going out and stuff. We still tried to be intentional with like doing a little date night or making something at home just to make it a little more special than all the other nights at home. But, you know, you don't have to. Obviously, it's extremely nice to be able to actually go out and feel like our old selves, you know, pre-kid selves, having a good time, going out to dinner, concerts, things like that. But if you're not able to do that, I think you can still be intentional with the time. And, you know, just like the newlywed advice that we both gave of just having goals that we're working towards together, like outside of keep, you know, don't go into financial ruin, keep the kids alive, keep ourselves alive and healthy. Like outside of those obvious goals, we have projects that we work on together, like doing this podcast or projects around the house that we work on together, or different ideas, you know, always thinking of new things that we might want to pursue together.
Yep.
So I think that is what, you know, keeps the spark alive. And, you know, bringing me the occasional iced coffee or Diet Coke keeps the spark alive.
The key to her heart is treats.
Yes, it is. I'm not going to lie. If you show up with a bag of French fries or chocolate chip cookies,
it's a ticket, man.
Going to be my hero. So that pretty much wraps it up. I enjoyed that.
This was super fun.
I feel like I'm in the car driving to college again.
Yep. I loved it too. I hope you all got something out of it and enjoyed it too. And it was great.
You can do these with your own spouse. You can ask them these questions.
Yeah.
See your answers. I think that's, you know, a fun way to, through questions is like a good way to open communication versus just like, how was your day every day?
It was good. Good.
Okay, so this year, every day when you get home from work, you're going to ask me a different question.
Woo! Okay. I'm sure somebody wrote a book about that.
And I'll have 10 questions prepared for you. No, just kidding. I don't have time for that.
Well, this was super fun. Thanks. I love you.
Love you too.
All right. Well, if anybody has any other questions or anything that you thought of that we didn't answer or talk about, or want to dive in deeper to any of the topics we discussed, we are here for you. So please message us, DM us, and don't forget to please leave us a 5-star review. That really helps us out.
See you next time.
God bless.